Um, all right. So you first got sober. You went back after the bail. You went into this um, another psych ward, was it?
No, it was a rehab, a
Sorry,
juvenile
sorry,
rehab.
rehab. But you were still taking then. So at what point did you say, right, I seriously need to stop this?
Well, I got caught using in there, um, and then that threat of the multiple years became a very crystallised thing,
Reality, yeah.
and I just thought, oh fuck, I can't even stop for a short period of time, and luckily one of the people in there just took pity on me, just went, you dumb kid, like. And even then, like one of the workers who was in that kind of pulled me aside and said, these other kids might kind of get it together, but you're going to die. Like you're not like them.
Mm.
You need to listen here. They'll find some sort of happy medium somewhere and go get a, minimum wage job, but you're going to do this until you die.
It's yeah, there's no off for you.
And I kind of, I got a little bit of an understanding, and it kind of scared me enough to kind of toe the line there for a while.
Do you think that was that control again? It's like no one's going to tell Luke what to do?
I don't know. Not really. I don't think at that stage, I wanted to rebel then, yeah, definitely. But, once I got the kind of the real fear of God in me, that I was sitting in there and I just screwed my last chance.
Mm.
I became just a little bit teachable, just a little bit.
Okay. So did you go to jail for those 3 years?
No,
No.
I didn't. They took pity on me and kind of hid it, and let me finish the program there, which, I don't know how things would have gone, either way, but, I'm definitely grateful that they did that. They certainly didn't have to, and when they gave the report to the judge at the end, because I got bailed to do this 3-month rehab, and I kind of got out and they just said, he's sorted it out. He's a model citizen, and I got a real slap on the wrist for my sentence.
Mm.
I kind of really got let off.
What were you in front of the judge for?
2 counts of car theft, 1 of stealing from a person, which is bag snatch, 3 counts of supply prohibited substance, 2 counts of carrying cutting weapons. There was a whole bunch of others as well. I can't really remember. It's a long time ago now.
Yeah,
But
right.
plenty.
Yeah.
There's a couple of assault charges in there. Enough to put me away for a while.
Okay. So you finished the rehab program, and how long did you stay clean for?
About 6 hours. Honestly, they saved up your money while you're there.
Yeah.
Your youth allowance, and they've kind of just gone, well, you're sorted and fixed now, buddy. Here's a check for $350. Don't spend it all at once. And I walked to the nearest bank, cashed it, and jumped on a train to Cabramatta and went and bought heroin with it.
So, but you just finished saying that the bloke in the rehab told you need to get on the straight and narrow. How long were you clean for before you left there? A few weeks, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, probably about 2 months. I probably
Yeah. Okay.
got caught. But I kind of in the leading up to that time, I went back to court to get sentenced probably about 3 weeks before I left, and the sentence was you stay until it's finished, but after that you're on a good behaviour bond, and you'll pay $300 in fines. That was pretty much what the sentence was. So I just sat there that 3 weeks, just thinking all I got to do is just not leave or use it while I'm here. And after that, I can just go back exactly to what I was doing. And this time I'll be smart about it.
And did you have like I'm assuming anyone does, excuse me, I'm assuming anyone does when they come down from drugs, like were you having what was going on for you when you weren't able to get the drugs?
Oh, I went nuts. Like absolutely. There's a saying in AA that, you can take the alcohol out of a fruitcake or take the rum out of a fruitcake, but it's still a fruitcake. So, it's, and that's what happened, like I took the drugs out and I just went mental, and that was
Yeah.
the reason why, I was getting Anthony, my brother, to come and bring me stuff, just because I was mental. I didn't know how to even function at that basic kind of level.
Okay. So even though you were clean for a couple of weeks, you got out of there and there was no second guessing. You were going straight back into it.
Pretty much. I just didn't really have another. They didn't teach me anything in there that would possibly really help.
Did they try to?
Um,
Like, was it a program to teach you how to go back into the real world, or?
Mate, what is the real world when you're 16? It's just, I was a kid, there wasn't, well, I'm going to go to uni or go get a job or any of that sort of stuff. I was just ill-equipped for life in every capacity, I just, and couldn't even really kind of connect with people at a basic level, So it just left me with the exact same problems that I walked in with, just without the drugs. Taking the drugs away just did absolutely nothing. I was just, all of the pain and the shame and all the rest of it just was still there, and the control. So,
When did you meet your first wife?
I would have been clean for about a year.
Okay.
So when I got clean.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Like, why did you first get clean at that point? How old were you then?
I was 25, and mate, I wanted to get clean because I knew I was kind of at the end of the road, and
So it had been solid drugs for that. So that's almost 10 years, right?
yeah, absolutely, just like wall to wall. Like I'd get into rehab when I couldn't kind of support the habit anymore. The crime, even at a basic level, kind of stopped. So I was just living kind of like dole check to dole check, and just kind of trying to scrounge whatever I could in between. It was just this miserable existence. I lived on a guy's lounge for like 6 years, and he just let me live there, like just out of fucking pity or kindness or whatever.
Was
And
he
that
a
was
mate of yours?
he was a mate of mine's dad, and he just kind of took me in and knew that I was just fucked.
Yeah.
And his son was not in that much different of a situation.
Was
So
his son there as well?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So you were just like you get your pay, you get your dole check come in, and then I'm assuming you'd go and get drugs and just see out the rest of the fortnight. Is that kind of how it went, or were you
yeah.
going to a place of work, or what was going on?
There was a couple of tiny attempts to try and normalize. Like I'd say, like my old man had kind of let me come back and work there, and I could keep that up for a couple of weeks and try and be normal. And then I just couldn't do it anymore, and I'd just go and use on payday or whatever. I just couldn't. Like I was constantly trying to get it together, it just failing miserably because of the reasons for me being there were always the same. And yeah, how it all came about that I got clean the first time was pretty weird. I ended up, I could never get out of this guy's house because I never had any money. And I never actually went to any jobs while I was on Centrelink, and they kind of sent me to go to this job interview, and I turned up in no shoes, like just barefoot.
What was the job?
So in an embroidery factory, and I just like I made shorts out of tracksuit pants. and a grubby t-shirt, and I was about probably 55 kilos. Yeah, and I'm 5'11". I'm not a
No, exactly.
And I was just yellow. I had hepatitis, and I was just fucked.
Wow.
And I just kind of like walked in, because if I didn't go to this job interview, like they would cut me
take
dole
your
off.
dole. Yeah.
So I went, and then I kind of just looked at these people like a Martian, and in the end, they're just going, "Mate, you got the job." Oh fuck! That wasn't in the plan.
I shouldn't have wore a shirt.
Yeah, exactly. I should have used the C word, And,
That's right.
And I turned up for 3 days, man. Like just thinking, well, I got a job. I got a real, honest to goodness job. I might have a crack at this.
Yeah.
And after 3 days, it wasn't working for me. I was sick, and at that point, there was this Like I'd managed to make a couple of mates that would keep me in drugs. It was just one of the weird times in my using where I just had lots and lots and lots of drugs. And one of them was working for a pharmaceutical company and stuff. And I just kind of looked at this person and just said, look, I've got hepatitis. I'm a drug addict. I'm basically homeless. I'm living out of this guy's lounge, and I just, I'm sorry for wasting your time, but can you just give me the 3 days worth of money and I'll just nip off and get on, and we'll just, you can sack me and we'll call it no harm, no foul, and this couple, this lovely couple's just gone, wow, like, do you want to just come and live with us, mate?
Wow. They were the owners of the business.
Yeah. These fundamentalist Christians, and they just took me in and just bought me everything I needed. And I robbed these people blind. Like, there was no part of me that wanted their kindness or wanted their love or any of that sort of stuff. And every opportunity that they gave me, and I conned this guy, and I stayed. I went and lived with him and stayed there, and and I ended up conning him out of like $500. And I just sort of thought to myself,
How'd you do that?
I told him people were after me, and if he didn't give me the money, they were going to kill me, and I just needed $500. And this dude just gave it to me, and
What
but
did
it
you do
was
with it?
I used every cent of it,
Yeah.
in a very short space of time. I just vanished from his house for 3 days and then turned up again, back. And it just started to dawn on me that even if I'm in complete victim mode, like, no matter, even if someone's going to give me everything that I asked for, it's still shit.
Still
Like,
not enough. Yeah.
and it's just awful. Even if there's these rich people that are willing to meet all of my needs, it's just hell being me.
Mm.
And and they fronted me about it pretty quickly as well. Like, just not long after that, they just sort of said, "Look, we thought we were helping you, but as it turns out, we're just making it worse." So, this experiment of ours, we're going to call it
Yes.
that.
You've been a good guinea pig, but can you get out of our house now?
Well, they had this daughter that did, she was my age, and she did voluntary work, like a good little Christian girl at a refuge. And they just said, "Look, you can go here," and I just kind of thought, okay. And that was where, again, I thought, I've got everything, all the help I need here. I'm going to get it together. And I
How
went
old were
to
you
get
then?
25.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to go and learn Spanish. I'm going to go and get an education, and I'm going to do all this stuff. And I just couldn't get it together, man. I just couldn't get clean. And I overdosed in the lounge room of this house. And one of the guys that was working there was in a 12-step fellowship. And again, he sat me down and just said, "These other kids, these other 17-year-olds that are in this refuge, they're going to get it together, but you're going to die. So why don't you come to a meeting with me?" And he took me to an NA meeting, and that started the journey pretty much.
So how long were you clean at that for that stage?
It took me a little while to get clean, probably I was doing meetings and half-heartedly before I finally kind of was willing to do what I was told.
Mm.
I still thought I could do it my way for a long time, but probably about another 3 months after that, I got clean, and then I stayed clean for 6 years after that.
And that's awesome. Well done. Did you have that sort of thought though? Like, that's an amazing achievement. I've gotten off this thing that's been controlling my life, or what was going on for you? Like, did you have a moment where you said, "This is a pat on the back for me"?
There was a lot of ego, like when you're kind of coming from a place of deficit, and I really played up that story of the comeback kid that, came from the streets and was, never had anything, and now I've got the mortgage and the job and the house and all that sort of stuff. Aren't I awesome? But it yeah, I didn't fix any of the real stuff. It didn't fix anything at all. It didn't fix any of the pain.
So let's talk about that 6 years clean then. So when did you started to tell me, when did you meet your first wife?
I would have been about a year clean.
So 26, 27?
Yeah, about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how'd you guys meet?
Through a friend. She was studying with one of my mate's girlfriends, so they were at uni together. And we met and kind of hit it off and moved in together. And that was kind of like my first real. I'd had a girlfriend like once before, for like a couple of months. But yeah, she was kind of like my first real relationship. I just couldn't do it when I was using, like just that constant disconnection that I was talking about before. Like, I got laid every now and again, like, but yeah,
no real connection, no real partner.
Nah, not at all.
Yeah. Okay. So so 27, you meet this woman, and like, was marriage the goal for you, or how did that happen?
Yeah, well, mate, truth be told, she was going to get, she was out here studying on a student visa, and she hated her degree, and it was a bit of a way for me to rescue her. If I'm being really honest, and with what I kind of believed about myself, it gave me some sort of external value to her, and I could kind of hide behind that a little bit. I didn't need to be too vulnerable. There was something that she needed from me, so I was, even if she loved me to death, I still needed that for me to feel okay. And so yeah, I was only too keen to get hitched and that sort of stuff.
Oh,
So,
that's great. And you had the house together, and you were working at this stage, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
What were you doing for work?
I sold. It's what I still do now. But I found out that the same things that I call defects of character are actual, really, really good survival mechanisms. So you can turn them to the
Good
powers of
salesman
good.
skills, exactly.
Yep, I can pretend to be people all day.
Nice.
But
So
yeah,
it was all going good in the real world. You had all the house, the wife, the car, the job. But I'm
yeah.
starting to get that wasn't enough for you.
Well, no, I did it to try and fix the internal world. Again, it was all a big charade as far as me controlling how other people saw me. None of it was for me. It was all for, I did love my wife very much, but I didn't know how to do that yet, because I was constantly, in this world of kind of control and then out of control. And, I needed these other kind of side addictions to kind of keep the powder dry and to keep me disconnected enough to function while that happened, so I could have the corporate job and make six figures, but I also, had like a pretty rampant hooker addiction that was going along kind of alongside that to kind of keep me together. And, I wasn't willing to do what I was told yet. Like, there was people in my life at that time saying, hey, this stuff doesn't work and you need to go and start dealing with the real kind of core issues. And I was just like, yeah, well, I'm going to earn my way out of this,
Yeah. Okay. So obviously we talked a lot about your drug addiction, and the big part of that was about being in control and turning off those voices and stuff like that. You just mentioned then about the hookers. Like, at what point did that start, and why was that something that started?
I kind of hit a really rough point at about 3 years, 4 years clean. I just started to really kind of thaw out. And
So you're married at this stage, you got the job and all of that?
yeah, got everything that I thought I wanted and needed, and and it was all good. And I started to actually, like, the kind of the core stuff, I couldn't kind of pretend anymore. Like the pain and the trauma and that sort of stuff just started to kind of seep out sideways. And my behavior started to become a little bit erratic, and and I just kind of started to look for other ways and means, be it fantasy or sex addiction or, gambling at points or, or whatever. The next holiday, there was always somewhere other than here where it was going to be okay then, and it's a pretty shitty place to be, and it just needs more and more. It just needs to escalate, like, it can't just kind of stay where it is, it's like the drugs, they start to not work.
You need to put something else on top. Why turn to sex? What was the appeal there? Like, you're married at this stage. Why the need to do that?
Well, it's safe for starters. It's emotionally safe. You don't need to be kind of present and vulnerable, and then, because that was kind of missing in the marriage, like I just it was blatant that it wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like, but like with when you're paying for sex, it doesn't have that kind of it's supposed to be like that. This person's supposed to be kind of like playing a role of a fantasy that you've got, and it's not supposed to be real.
Mm.
And you don't want to connect.
That's right.
Most of the time, you're not paying them to be there. You're paying them to go home afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was safe. It was a way for me to kind of live in fantasy without having any kind of real repercussions. There was real repercussions, I can assure you.
Yeah, I bet.
But they came later on.
Your wife found out about it?
Yeah. In the end, I told her. But in the end, I was already using drugs by that point anyway. So I went back to it and was still married, and this person that she'd never seen use drugs started using drugs, and it went downhill very, very quickly.
Did she know about the past before her though?
Yeah, she did.
You told her?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
recovery was still a big part of my life. I still did a lot of NA meetings, and it was, all of my friends from NA.
Got it.
So.
Okay. So when did she, because you sort of told me last night about when you first got back on, which was at a family get together.
Yep. Yeah.
And, everyone was sort of passing around the joint, and you've jumped in. Where did it go from there, from that night?
I woke up the next morning with just this incessant drive to go and use more. Like, it was just relentless.
After 6 years clean?
Yeah, there was no time had elapsed. Like, so once the kind of, what I now know to be kind of a neural pathway or a behavioural set or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really matter. But once that was triggered again, it was just off and running. And I was a spectator in it pretty much,
Okay. And at what point did your wife, like you just said, that she saw you do drugs, at what point did that happen?
Pretty, like within 48 hours,
Okay. You didn't hide it?
Well, I just couldn't. If I wanted to stay smashed all the time, which is what my, it's not a thing where I could spend like some like waking moments not in that state. I just, once it's on, it's on. At least I've got some sort of a baseline kind of glow on at some level.
Mm.
So, be it work or be it at home or whatever, just it kind of, so I just said, look, I've started using again, and, I was in complete denial. I said, look, it'll be all right. I'll still be able to work and function and all the rest of it. Yeah.
And that when you told her about the prostitutes and the gambling?
That was much, much later. Much, much later. So that I probably would have gone about a year or more in that kind of using and in that relationship. But everything just escalated that fast, When it all started absolutely falling apart and she'd had enough, that was when I kind of just fessed up and just went, look, that's not just this, like, I'm fucked, and it's just all of this stuff. Then
so she stayed with you for that whole year before you told her? You guys were still married?
Yeah.
Why?
I think she just held out hope that I'd come back. Like I'd go to rehab and I'd go to NA and I'd figure it out again and I'd be normal.
Because from that night at the family get together, how long were you staying on drugs from that point?
What do you mean? Like, how long did I?
Well, you told me last night that you don't remember having a straight day for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And for a whole year, your wife and you were still in this marriage?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Why do you think she stayed there for that whole year, knowing every day you were going to be, off your head?
I think there's varying degrees of it. For quite a while, I managed to keep the job and keep the money coming in, and there wasn't sort of a large amount of external pressure. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's kind of like, oh, he's off his head, but you know, he'll figure it out. You know, I think she just held out hope that she'd get her husband back. To be honest,
Was it just marijuana, or you were back into the heavy stuff?
it was mainly softer drugs. I couldn't do the hard drugs like I used to. I tried to. I got on the ice and stuff, and it just sent me absolutely insane. But I would use over-the-counter codeine. So I'd use kind of opiates like that, and drink and smoke marijuana to kind of top up. A lot of sleeping pills.
Yeah.
They were kind of a bit of a favourite.
Okay. So your wife left after that year. You confessed everything, and she left. I'm assuming that's how it played out.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
And uh, and then what? Did things really escalate then?
Not really. It was kind of just this purgatory. Really, like it was just this. What I would call my hardcore using didn't come back. You know, I wasn't an IV heroin user anymore, and I wasn't a petty criminal anymore, or any of that sort of stuff. I still kind of held down jobs for the most part, just in a living hell. You know, kind of in this, knowing that there was something better than this.
Mm.
Um,
Did a supervisor ever say, "Luke, what's going on"?
it's funnily enough, a certain amount of it's pretty much tolerated in the sales world. You know, like you kind of expected to be a bit of a loose unit at some level.
What was the industry that you were in?
IT.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, so the boozy lunches were kind of expected. There was a couple of times where I got a talking to. You know, one time I took a whole bunch of Xanax at work, and there was no explaining that one away. Yeah, so there was times, but you know,
Okay.
if you're still selling, you're still selling. So
Yeah, sure. And you stayed in the family home?
for some time, yeah, like it took us a while to kind of figure out what we were going to do, whether we were going to get divorced or whatever.
What did you want to do?
For a long time, I wanted to fix it,
Yeah.
so I'd go to rehab and that sort of stuff. To try and make it look like I was doing what I needed to do. And
But you weren't.
well, I couldn't get it back. I didn't know I didn't know how to get back what I'd lost. Which was basically the ability to do things somebody else's way. That was what
That's how you saw it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, but in the end, I got it. So when there was, when I was in enough pain, I was willing to do it somebody else's way.
So you weren't prepared to finish up the marriage, but I'm assuming she made a decision there.
Actually, it was me in the end who pulled the pin. I started to realise that the marriage was actually a really large portion, a large part of why I used. Like that was where a lot of the pain was. There's a lot of dynamics that play out with people who have this stuff. Like there's only a damaged person looks at someone like me and just goes fucking marriage material. Like they're like two pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that fit together. One who wants lots of control and one who wants to be controlled. And kind of, there's certain dynamics, and I'm not sure if you know about codependence, but just that's pretty much, there's usually a love addict and a love avoidant, and they usually find one another and they kind of keep one another in this constant state of abandonment. And it's kind of makes a lot of sense to them in the moment. And that stuff was all present in that marriage as well. And man, it was killing me. It really was. And I didn't know about it. I didn't know what was going on.
So you called it quits.
Yeah.
And how long did you keep using for after that?
A while. Would have been probably a year or so, I reckon. So, yeah.
Did you ever regularly go, why am I back on this road again? I was clean 6 years. What am I doing?
Constantly. Like like I constantly did NA meetings during that time. I constantly had a sponsor. I constantly was trying to get clean, like the whole time. Like there was no part of me, like it's like traveling downhill without a steering wheel, just looking at this thing, just in terror, just going, fuck, I know where this ends up. Like there's only like jails, institutions, and death as the result of this, and I've seen it happen many times over the years of being in NA, So I was constantly trying to stop, constantly, and yeah.
So why didn't you then?
I just couldn't because there was just this one significant problem was that I just wasn't willing to do something somebody else's way, because I'd been clean for 6 years. I thought that I knew, and I thought that I could trust I thought that I could trust my thinking again.
Mm.
And it's my thinking that's the problem. So, for me to constantly be running on my own best ideas, there was a point in there where I was, I think, 11 days clean, and my head came up with the idea that I needed to go to Taiwan. And I just went, fucking, it's like 2 a.m. and I just went, oh, fuck it, and just booked tickets to Taiwan, like just setting myself up. Of course, as soon as I hit the tarmac, I was gone, like just, using and, tearing Taipei to bits, basically.
Yeah.
But that was my thinking. That was like, oh, I just need a break. I just need a holiday. I'll just leave my support network here while I'm 11 days clean and just
That's
go.
right.
It's just nuts.
You went by yourself?
Yeah.
How was that? What'd you do over there?
I think you know what I did over there, Matt. But mate, I just drank and used drugs and just partied and cried a lot because it didn't work. Like I thought, oh, this is going to be great. And 48 hours in, I was just sitting in a gutter with a long neck, sobbing. I took me with me, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next time you got clean was where you're at now, right? Like you've been clean ever since that point. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah. So the next time I got any amount of time up. Yeah. And that time something happened and I broke in a big way.
Tell me about
that. I put myself into a rehab at a place called South Pacific, and they connected me with the kind of the person that sits underneath a lot of this stuff, the person without the control and the trauma and the fucking pain. And
why did you put yourself in there? What had happened? Anything or?
I just was kind of at my wit's end.
Yeah.
Like I was just in this awful kind of grey zone, surrounded by people that love me and knowing it and knowing that stuff was there and being unable to kind of get at it. And
still in a job?
No, I was out of a job by that point. I was cooked. I couldn't even work really.
Who were these people that loved you? Just family and
mainly my mates from NA.
Yeah.
I kind of, when I came into NA the first time, I left all the people that I knew kind of to the side because they were all just users, and I just kind of just made a whole bunch of new mates, and we all got clean together and stayed together and we were a part of one another's lives and supported one another. And so we got really close, and all these guys had just lost their mate. He just kind of went bye-bye, and they were really afraid that I was going to do something really dumb. So, so they were all kind of at me constantly and taking me to meetings and stuff.
Were those friends clean, or were they doing a similar thing that you were doing?
They were all clean.
Yeah.
And with significant periods of time up too.
Got it. Okay, so you put yourself into this place.
And then I found out just how cooked my goose was, really. That underneath all of this stuff was a really traumatized kid and that was in a lot of pain. And then unless I dealt with that stuff, I was just going to keep doing this. Like I was just going to keep on this treadmill. And maybe I'd get clean for a while, and then if I didn't deal with it, it'd put me in enough pain again where using was a good option, which is what it was. At 6 years clean, I was in so much pain that I knew what was going to happen, and I did it anyway. It had to be better than where I was at.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had what I would call a surrender. Where I was willing to do it. It became very obvious that my mind wasn't going to get me out of this. I wasn't going to be able to think my way out. I wasn't going to be able to kind of earn or fuck or do anything to get myself out of this. This was going to keep going on. So I kind of just went, okay, well, you tell me what I need to do, and I was willing to do it.
This time you were ready to listen and do the work.
Yeah. At points I wasn't. There was at points where I just went, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to try and do something other than this, so,
How long were you in that rehab place for?
For 6 weeks, and then I went to another place after that for a year, which was just like a residential place, of just living in a community of guys getting clean.
Yeah, right. How was that?
Mate, it was hard. It was really hard. The first kind of 6 week one was like super intense, kind of lots of trauma work, and then the next one of a year was kind of me learning how to be in a community, which I'd been a lone wolf my whole life. I had to deal with my trauma and stuff, and deal with people and deal with these guys, and some of them I got on with, some of them I didn't. Anthony got diagnosed with cancer when I was about 90 days clean. So that was a pretty gnarly way to spend my first year. Kind of taking care of him and trying to take care of me and trying to work a job, and kind of got a job washing dogs in a pet shop, and I met my wife. I was about 3 months clean as well. I think about 3 days before my brother got diagnosed. And
wow.
So I just kind of pulled a life together as best I could. And it was messy a lot of the time. I was just just trying to keep my head above water and just function. But
did you ever have a moment of weakness and have any drugs in that time?
No, I've been clean since the day I got to that 3 years place. That 1 year place where I stayed. That was the 2nd of May, 4 years ago.
So in that 6 week one, you got out of there. You were willing to listen, but you still sort of had moments where you said, "I know what I'm doing. I'll be right."
Yeah, well, I needed to get it belted out of me a little bit more.
And then 2nd of May, you go into this 1 year place, and in that time, you were in that first 3 months was when you met your now wife, and Anthony got sick.
Yeah. So
to tell us about that point, like you and your brother were close, right?
Yeah.
Always were.
Yeah.
Must have been a massive shock. It was to me. Would have been huge for you.
Yeah, it wasn't really nice, to be honest. Especially being kind of I was kind of in a lot of trauma. Like I was doing a lot of that work. So I was already kind of in a really horrible place. Like I was really damaged and just in trying to keep myself in cotton wool. So I didn't make any big life decisions or anything, and just kind of was just being super, super gentle. So that was a huge, huge shock. And it just, I look back on it now, it actually helped me to deal with a lot of stuff because it just brought stuff out that I wouldn't have been able to get to. But yeah, man, it was hard. It was really hard to stay clean. Like the victim voice in my head was just like blindingly loud, well, your brother's going to die, it's okay. No one's going to begrudge you, a sneaky one here or there.
You deserve it.
But by the same token, I just came off the back of 3 years of that stuff. So I kind of wasn't willing to sign up for that again, so I just kind of held on with it, I guess.
Does your wife know the full background of what's happened?
Yeah.
If not, she will after this this chat.
Mate, yeah. Mate, I've held nothing back,
Yeah. It really sounds to me, and what I'm getting from this is you've made it a priority to A, be very honest, but B, patch up relationships that you've damaged.
Yeah, I have.
Is that part of the process, part of the recovery?
Yeah, it is for me. Yeah, definitely. Um, if I can't heal things that I'm not willing to look at, I can't. If I'm not willing to admit that I'm dishonest, I can't become honest.
Mm.
If I'm not willing to look at the fear that I have, if I'm not willing to connect to that stuff, I can't. I'm stuck in the trap. Like the only way out is just rigorous honesty. That's and help, like loads and loads and loads of help from other people. Because left to my own devices, a week with my own head, and I've come up with another brilliant scheme, another great plan. Which will come up with some. Like my my sponsor in NA says, mate, you've got a fuckwit for a manager. You know,
Wow.
but yeah, it's a small price to pay. And then that stuff is getting less. As I do. Like I was telling you yesterday about EMDR therapy, which is eye movement desensitization. It's not just all this, trauma, chaos stuff. I'm starting to be able to react, in a logical way to things instead of from just a purely kind of reptile, emotional kind of mess kind of way, which is nice. Like it's makes things like employment and public transport a lot easier.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I actually, we obviously caught up when Anthony did pass away, and as hard as that time would have been for you, you did look good, and you did seem very confident and strong. And I'm assuming you had to be on a day like that. But how tough was that for you?
I had the luxury of knowing it was coming, so I had a plan, and especially because I knew that I'd be there when he died, and that there would be drugs there, So he was on morphine and Valium, and he didn't mind the odd bong or two, so there was pot lying around and stuff. And I knew that I'd be in a house with my dead brother and drugs, and so I just made a plan that exactly, when he did pass, that I'd ring a mate, and he'd kind of stay on the phone with me while I kind of made some arrangements to kind of get the drugs a bit away from me, so that I didn't make a rash decision out of real high emotion.
Mm.
But kind of did that, and I really knew that I needed to sit with the emotions as well. Like I'd done enough work by that point to know that I needed to lean into the pain rather than avoid it. So I just kind of wasn't using things outside of myself at that point to change the way I felt or to control it. I just kind of knew that I needed to have that grief, and which I had varying degrees of success with. Sometimes I could do that well, and sometimes I just sat there playing computer games and just punched out. But But it wasn't. Yeah, it was hard, but it was okay.
Did that bring you and your mum close together, or you and your dad, or your dad and your mum? Like, what did that do for the family?
Not really. For a while it did, but not. I wouldn't say over the long term. There's still a lot of. My dad's my dad. Just kind of. I'm never going to sit down and have a long emotional conversation with him. I don't think. But he doesn't force me to do anything. So I kind of, it's fine. We kind of just enjoy one another's company. We catch up and have yum-cha every now and again, and it's. It just is what it is. Mum's a bit of a different story. So I just I've had to kind of learn to kind of operate with that framework a little bit. So the relationship's changed. It's obviously there's a lot of grief there and a lot of pain. And a lot of honesty's had to come out of it as well. It's easy to pretend things aren't happening when someone dies, you kind of got to front up to what you've done and what your behaviour's been. And,
yeah.
So
you said a lot of honesty. Do you mean from you to your mum or vice versa?
Yeah, both. It's been, a big growing process for her too, I think. Things that were kind of would have been left unsaid just aren't quite as much anymore. So, yeah, it's good in everything if you could find it. So,
100%, mate. Yeah. On a side note, the Bulldogs aren't having a great year. How do you think Anthony would be feeling about that?
mate, he'd be pretty dirty.
Having a shocker.
Mate, yeah. He would be very agitated. Yeah.
All right, so you and your wife now, it's going really good, and you're working again.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're in a good spot? You look great.
Yeah, thanks. I am in a good spot. I'm doing the work this time. That's probably the big thing, there's certain areas of life that are a little bit unbalanced that I'd probably like to get a little bit more balanced, but
Such as?
Things like, as I start to kind of care about myself a little bit more, I'm carrying a few too many kilos and I don't exercise much anymore, and that sort of stuff. Learning to do that from a place of caring instead of doing it to try and control how people see me is still a bit of a journey.
Sure.
I don't eat sensibly. I have to lose 50 kilos so that I'm a certain weight, and it's very obsessive still. So for the most part, I function in a job day to day. I'm married and I'm in an honest marriage where, this stuff, people do own their own part, and people, go into control and, like humans do when they're afraid, and then kind of, backtrack and go, fuck, sorry. And, that stuff's really, really beautiful, really hard. I'm not still super great at this intimacy thing. I'm not, but I'm having a crack, man. I kind of see like my default position is probably that dude living on the lounge. That's probably where I'm supposed to be there, but with kind of a lot of intervention, I get to have this bit.
Yeah.
So, and mate, I'm enjoying it. I'm very active in helping other people with this stuff as well. And that saves my ass more than I'd like to admit.
Mate, well, I'm glad you segued into that. That was going to be my next question. I think like what we've spoken about tonight is so valuable for someone that's, maybe potentially going down the road that you've gone down. What would you say to someone that maybe has already started to go down that road where you were when you're 14, 15, 16?
That hell doesn't really have a bottom floor. You can get out at any point. I didn't get out because I didn't think I could, but all I had to do was do something somebody else's way. All I had to do was to stop the cycle of my own thinking and behavior and just do something somebody else's way. And that was all that needed to happen. It took 10 years to belt the humility into me to do that, and hopefully that somebody else doesn't need to have that. That there is plenty of love out there on offer if you can just get out of your own way.
And should they be reaching out to someone, to family, to friends, to professionals?
Yeah, absolutely, as much as possible. Like it took a small army to get me clean, multiple times. So and I needed every bit of it. I'd highly recommend 12-step fellowships to people because there's a lot of support there and it's free. It can be hard to get a lot of therapy and stuff. It's pretty expensive. You can get like 10 counselling sessions from the government or something, but that is just a drop in the ocean.
That's just a Band-Aid on a broken leg, yeah.
Pretty much, so, but to go there, like it's not for everyone, but, at least you can meet some like-minded people and get some phone numbers and hang out with clean people, like that was the thing that saved my ass. We're all mental, we're just chaotic, but we're clean. Got to the next bit.
What about parents that have where your parents were and a little bit lost and not sure what to do? Like now that, we're a similar age, so now that we're old and wise, what would you say to parents that are maybe dealing with a teenager that's rebelling and going down this road?
Well, mate, there's plenty of 12-step fellowships for them as well. You know,
Yeah. Okay.
Al-Anon, Nar-Anon, and they'll kind of teach you that you're probably just as much a part of the problem, to be honest. You know, and it's pretty hard for people to swallow when they want to be the victim of their kid that's losing their shit.
Mm.
But it'll teach them kind of how to have those boundaries and to not aid and abet this. You know, like most drug addicts have a rescuer, someone who helps this.
Mm.
You know, and mate, it's not helping. It really isn't. The sooner someone hits a good rock bottom and they're willing to do something somebody else's way, the faster. The sooner the things will get better.
Yeah. Got it.
I wish that there was a magic thing, you know, like there's a reason why there's a million drug addicts and not a lot of clean drug addicts. You know, not a lot of sober people out there. It's because the treatment is hard. It's really, really difficult. It's expensive. And there's just not a lot of people who are going to be able to get it, you know. So
What's the next 3, 5, 10 years for you look like?
I want to get some sort of study done. Now that I'm starting to get to a point where I can, you know, we spoke about that yesterday, you know, like being a professor at university probably isn't
That's right.
but you know, especially if I'm going to be working full time and stuff, you know, but yeah, maybe starting a family in a little while as well.
Nice.
You know, yeah, I'm looking forward to that stuff. You know, it's all kind of I'm scared, but it'll be okay.
I think that scared thing, mate, is pretty common. What about going down the road of helping people that were in that journey that you went down? Is that something that you see yourself doing?
I kind of do it for free. You know, I don't know if I do it for a job. You know, there's probably 5 guys that I kind of mentor through that process.
Yeah, great.
And it's a really important part of the process. You know, I've got someone mentoring me and I provide that to those guys. You know, it's to somebody to use somebody else's thinking, you know, so, and to someone, you know, someone who's walked the path. So, but that keeps they help me more than I help them. That's the thing, you know, like you know, the stuff that I need to do, I'm telling them, you know, so.
Yeah, right.
You know, I love it. It validates me in a huge way, but yeah.
Okay. Who do you still have to clean up with?
Mate, there's a few. The ex-wife could probably do with some. It's hard to know what's for me and what's for them. You know, I want to go back and get absolution, but that's pretty self-obsessed as well. You know.
Yeah, sure.
So I've got to be a little bit careful about how I do that. You know, sometimes I need to make indirect amends. You know, by helping somebody else or providing something to someone who isn't connected with that. You know, there's stuff that if I went back and said sorry for, I'd go to jail for, you know, so I'm probably not going to do that.
But like you say, you can do that in other ways.
Well, mate, I can put my hand out to the next guy coming along. You know, I can, you know, help out other people. I can be there and present for my family when they need me, you know, and a big part of Anthony's passing was that I got to be there and present for them and to do what needed to be done as a functional human instead of kind of having my hand out saying, I need help. You know, I've even got Anthony's bloody cat.
Really?
Mate, honestly, I'll tell you, I don't know how the universe works, mate, but I was in the process of writing out the list of who I need to say sorry to and who to do this process with.
Yeah.
And I came to Anthony, and the 2 things he loved in the world were pot and cats. Like, that was it. And I thought, how do I even make amends for this? You know, and, mate, 48 hours later, the RSPCA rings up and says, we've got your cat.
Oh, wow.
My brother's cat from bloody 8 years ago.
Serious?
Yep. Now the cat is in
You're
my lap.
taking it in.
Yep.
So you're making amends there, mate.
Cleaning out poop on a daily basis. Yep. Mate.
Look, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. And I first of all want to say, you know, the honesty I really respect, but I'm really proud to, you know, to say that we're cousins, but more than that, it's just I'm just proud of the journey that you've been on and where you are now, and I'm glad we've got to do this and record this because I think it'll be helpful to lots of people, mate. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thank you.